Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our second Art of Nursing webinar, this time with the RCN, from the RCN offices in London, and this time about saving the planet and what we can do to nurse it. We are speaking about the art of nursing, but that's not some magic moment. This is how we integrate the art and the science of nursing, and this time to help planet health and the individuals who are in it. And we have a number of speakers, nurses and artist allies speaking today. No slides, fireside chat, so you can continue to walk about, have your lunch, get on with things and listen to our excellent speakers, and also get some top tips about what you can do to help your patients, your employers, but also yourself. And why are we doing this today? Well, COP29 are meeting across the globe to say how we should be saving the planet. This is the hottest year we've ever had, and we are going to breach the 1.5 degree target that we put in. That doesn't really help us turn around. Now, we work in health, so we know climate change leads to more extensive weather, heat waves, and increasing health risks. And if we keep doing what we're doing, it's going to get even worse for us, our populations, and our planets. Some of the figures are terrifying for me. 2 billion people will be exposed to severe heat by 2100, most in low and middle income countries. And this is a huge problem for women who shoulder both the impact of the risks of maternal and neonatal health, but also the burden in social life of what happens when we get a hotter planet. So it's not just about us as women bearing babies, this is about our whole existence as well. There's going to be new and intensified infections. For example, in 2040, 5 billion people will be at risk from malaria. So anyone who works in travel health, this is, and travels and lives across the world. And we really are starting to hear about the illnesses from the floods in Europe right now, the impact on public health of that amount of water mixing and having an effect on people. Distribution of agriculture and food increases malnutrition, stunting, and the life-changing issues they bring. And this all has an impact on mental health, whether we're talking about the trauma from disasters, climate anxiety, loss of livelihood, or loss of lives. As nurses, we know that all of this impacts vulnerable communities most. They have the least access to healthcare, to homes, and the resources. So today's session is all about how can nurses help? How can we build resilient health systems, resilient health services, and reduce the sector's carbon footprint and waste? Some practical aspects, as well as a bit of advocacy and activist for us, because we need to be more rebellious now in terms of what we're doing in relation to nursing the planet. What we really need to do is learn how to harness nature and how to connect with nature to help health. So today, we're hearing from Hayley from Hospital Rooms about the impact of changing the hospital environment and bringing nature inside. We're hearing from Amanda from the Queen's Nurse Institute about how connection with nature being outside helps and what community nurses are doing about this. We're hearing from Helen from the Caribbean, and I hope the global challenges and nurses' work will become clear to you. And Alison, who will be helping you understand how you can help your employer save money, get heard, be creative, and also save the planet. And then we'll go over to the RCN team to share what is happening today and the future so that we can support nurses to nurse the planet. That's us. So we'll start then with Hayley. Hayley, who is one of my colleagues from the charity sector. I work with charities and with the Foundation for Nursing Studies. Joanne is next to me here, and we are ensuring that nurses get heard. So Hayley, one of my colleagues from charities, tell us in 8 minutes how you are helping with this.
Thank you so much, Marion. What an amazing sounding session. And thank you so much for having me as a part of it. It's really nice to be here with everyone. I can unfortunately only join for the first half, so any pressing questions that come out of my session, do feel free to follow up by email. I'm also happy to share any images as well. I love that you do the fireside chat, and I love that you don't have slides, but I'm going to be describing some very visual artworks, so if anyone does want to see those following up the session, then please don't hesitate to drop me a line. So Hospital Rooms is an arts and mental health charity. We're based in London, but we work nationwide in NHS mental health hospitals across the UK. We were founded in 2016 by Neve White, who is a curator, and Tim Shaw, who is an artist. They visited a friend who'd been sectioned under the Mental Health Act following a suicide attempt, and were just really shocked by the conditions of the mental health hospital that she was in, not just sort of plain and uninspiring, but actively dilapidated. And they had the idea to bring their skills, passion for art, and their network in the art world into a space that sort of needed it more when people were at a really low point. So they did have to kind of bang down some doors initially to try and get people to understand the benefits of that and want to have that kind of artistic transformation in the hospital. But since then, we've grown demand. We've worked in 44 mental health units in England, installing 196 new artworks. And we have a waiting list which sees kind of project demand, which will keep us busy for the next 15 years. We also have a digital program to kind of plug that demand a little bit as well, so that people can engage with creative activity without us needing to be there directly on site. So the relevance to this session is our evaluation. So my role as head of impact is to evaluate all of our programme offer to check that it is doing what we say it's going to do, that we're accountable to the needs of the communities we serve, but also to keep up with kind of the interests and priorities of the communities that we're working with as well. And we're seeing an increase in service users who want to prioritise planetary health. So through a lot of our surveys, even just in the 3 years that I've been there, we're seeing people talk more and more, particularly about kind of reduce, reuse, recycle, and how that we can make, ensure that in healthcare spaces and in the artistic workshops that we run. And also, as Marianne's already touched upon, this theme comes up a lot about bringing the outside in some of the most restrictive places. That need for nature and that desire for colour and motifs and things that reflect the outside world is really, really central to what we do, and driven by the feedback that we receive from both the staff and service communities on site. So I'm just going to give 3 examples of artworks that do that and the impact that they've had. The first is by an artist, Miranda Forrester, at our CAMS Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service in Sandwell near Birmingham. There was this corridor that we continually heard in evaluations was just this really dank place that people did not like spending any time. They told stories in our focus groups about people, staff and service users, literally putting their heads down and kind of rushing through it as quickly as possible. So we created an artwork in that space, which is still the same white walls, but with these huge colourful fern leaves that decorate all throughout and all over kind of the doorways and things like that. So many people are now stopping and having conversations in and convening in that space that they've actually brought furniture into an alcove in that corridor area, and service users go and sit there with their visitors when they arrive, and also have kind of more informal meetings in that space as well. So I really think that shows, harnessing the power of nature to be able to really make a space look and feel very different and be quite a comforting environment to be in. The second is a little bit different. So Philippa Claydon is an artist down in Cornwall, and she guided her artwork, but it was done exclusively by the 10 forensic mental health service users that are in that unit. And that's what our co-production model is kind of a bit of a spectrum. Patient involvement depends upon patient acuity, the scale of the artwork, the artist's practice, the timeline of the project. But we love when service users can directly inform the artworks by painting. This was done exclusively by them. They had an excursion. It sounds like someone's going to be talking about these sorts of excursions later. They had a community outing to these beautiful hillsides in Cornwall, and then mirrored those in the artwork. And each service user took a little section and painted that part of the hill. And it was so fascinating to see that everyone chose like different shades of greens and yellows. And they talked about how the light was kind of impacting those different areas and what that meant to them when they'd seen it, and remembering the day while they were painting it. So they were quite literally, they'd gone outside and they were bringing that in, and now it's a permanent feature in the space for all service users that come through that forensic setting. And finally, one of the occupational therapists at another site in Cornwall told us about a work by Anna Barrabell. It's sort of a shadow reflection of leaves on this really beautiful teal colour, not too dissimilar to the one behind me, actually. And she told us about a really difficult day on the ward for various reasons, which I'm sure everybody here is much more acutely aware of. They were in this communal space, the TV was loud, and actually very relevant to this session, the occupational therapist was telling me the news was on and it had all sorts of imagery around the climate crisis, and it was news updates, I think it was flooding. And she said that the service users who'd ordinarily be glued to that TV space were actually looking in the opposite direction, up at the artwork. And she described it as having a really collective moment of calm, which reset a very difficult day. And then finally, just to kind of respond to the feedback that we've received from service users about their increasing desire to be more environmentally conscious, we work to ensure that no art materials are wasted. So in both the installation of the artworks and the workshops, our workshops prioritise recyclable materials, but also artists encouraging and empowering people to understand what those are, how you can reuse materials, how you can repurpose them. We theme a lot of workshops on the environment and nature in response to this kind of desire from the service users. And through our evaluations, we also record all of our carbon activity. So any domestic shipments that go out, we record all of the weights, we record origin materials, and we do all that kind of with the goal to reducing our carbon footprint year on year and offering the communities that we serve that reassurance that we care about it and are trying to observe as much as we can as well. And I think that's me. I don't know if I made it within the 8 minutes. I hope I did, Marion.
Yes, good enough. And thank you. As you know, we work in this space a lot and people ask about the science. And I just want to reiterate that the science that has been used to look at the neurological impact of looking at nature and looking at art is there. And it's all down to fractals. It's all the way that we see patterns. And I'm a mental health nurse, and this always helps with people's anxiety. So those looking at leaves isn't just about looking at leaves, it's about recognizing patterns, cortisol, parasympathetic responses, etc. So it's wonderful to know that people will take their chairs into a corridor and be surrounded by nature and that calmness and have that neurological as well as psychological relief that comes with that. So you've got 1 minute of questions. Has anybody got a question for you? Because I know Hayley has to go off to the Arts Council. Is there a chat question at all, Sarah?
Not yet.
No. Well, hospital rooms work with another charity called Paintings in Hospitals, which provide the actual artwork and pictures that other people have painted, and do work in libraries as well. But Paintings in Hospitals aren't doing anything outside. And the challenges for funding for hospital rooms and paintings in hospitals continues. So my message to everybody out there, if you are working in a hospital and you think that this is something that is going to help because the evidence base is there, get in touch with us through Hayley, whose messages will be on chat, or through FONS or through RCN, because we need to actually make this happen to ensure that nature becomes part of nursing nature as well.
Yeah, there is now a question. Shall I
how do we get this on smaller scales? Angela Hayes will be able to answer that at 1:30. She'll be giving you some information. I called Angela Allison. I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry, Angela. I've known you forever, but she'll be helpful for that. And then we'll have some top tips as we go through the art of nursing. Okay, Claire, thank you. All right, thank you, Hayley. Go and get some funding. And we'll come over to Alison, who is from the Queen's Nursing Institute.
I think you've got a thing about Alison today. My name's Amanda.
Oh my God. Amanda. It's just all the A's. Sorry.
That's
anyway,
fine.
Anyway, Alan. Queen's Nursing Institute, tell us what you're up to, because this is amazing and all about nurses as well.
It is. So that we're my name is Amanda. I'm the Director of Nursing Programmes at the Queen's Nursing Institute, and we support all community nurses across all areas, the UK, in the England, Ireland, Wales, the Channel Islands, and we have been running with the National Garden Scheme some innovation projects related to gardens. So we're the oldest nursing charity in the world, and it was used. Our fundraising arm used to be associated with gardens. So Elsie Wagg was a trustee back in the 1887, 88, and she opened her garden for the first time, recognising how beneficial it was for people who didn't have access to gardens at that time. And she charged £1 for people to go in, and that's where the National Garden Scheme started. And they separated from us for a while ago, about nearly 100 years ago, and they are now funding community nurses to deliver garden projects, and they've been doing that since 2021, and they've just closed the applications for this year. So we've had 5 projects a year, and they've been in all sorts. Nurses have the most amazing ideas about how to use very little money to make a big impact for people in the community. So we've had projects in care homes, in community hospitals, in youth services, in children's centres, with all nurses from health visitors, practice nurses, hospital dementia specialist nurses, or anybody working in the community. We've just had some applications from prison nurses. So we're looking at projects that right across the spectrum with different people, and the difference they have made has been amazing. I'll give you a couple of examples. We had one in a care home, which it was a severe dementia care home, and the nurse recognised that nobody was using their garden at all. So just with the money that we had on offer, she was able to change the way the garden was configured. She managed to get access outside, and she managed to get all of the residents outside in the summer, and it was the first time ever that they'd had the residents outside. They started a garden club with the relatives, because actually visiting people with severe dementia in care homes, they found, was really, really hard. And so it gave them something to do as well as visiting, because I think sometimes the behaviour of the residents was quite severe, and the relatives who were visiting found that quite stressful. So they had a garden club, and one of their ladies who was quite not complaining, but she always had something to say about, what's going on. But I spoke to her when I went to visit, and she was absolutely astounded with the difference that it made with her partner coming outside, with her being involved in the home, being involved in nature, in the environment, was just really, really brilliant. And the care staff also benefited from being able to be outside with nature, and I think that's been really, really the most positive thing, and getting nurses to grow things, be able to see how just growing small amounts of vegetables can make a huge difference. The taste of vegetables. One of the youth projects where I went to visit, they had some young boys there who didn't know that cucumbers grew on trees, because you only see them in the supermarkets with cellophane on them. And they just grabbed these cucumbers off the branches, they cut them with a very dodgy knife, and they had an absolutely amazing time. And I just think that nurses have such amazing ideas, and small ones. None of it was expensive. They all discovered about seed swapping, so you can get seeds for free if you go onto the seed swap site, that go into local garden centres, getting a reduced rate for plants because they're nurses. All sorts of things, and community projects that in places like big organisations like Morrison's, B&Q, Sainsbury's, all have a community project fund, so that they're small amounts of money, but they just make such a big difference. We only get funding for 5 projects, but actually on the back of that, there are other people still continuing with the projects if they don't get the funding, which has been really, really good. One of our community hospital projects was the co-lead was a chef at the hospital, and she was growing vegetables. She was growing them in Henry Hoovers. The bottoms of Henry Hoovers. She had potatoes growing in them and chives growing in them. She utilised loads of things that were recycled and reused equipment that wasn't being used anymore. They had a memory section to their garden. We're using old resources that they'd had in the hospital, and they started counting their carbon footprint of the vegetables they grew. They weighed it. They had all of their the sustainability lead in the trust calculated their carbon footprint and the amount that they saved carbon wise, as well as money on food, transport. It was amazing. And the older people who were in the ward were going outside picking their own strawberries, absolutely using a bit of the garden as a bit of rehabilitation as well. So I do think it's been absolutely amazing, the work that nurses do in that space, and it's just been phenomenal. I've been really, really privileged to visit all of the projects, and I just can't believe how amazing they have been and how sustainable they've been.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just conscious of time because we are a fireside chat. People have got to rush off to do something nursey. The website for Queen's Nursing Institute's there, and it's got the case studies on it. I just, as I said, I'm a mental health nurse, and my speciality is dementia, and dementia-friendly gardens are the best way to actually enable people to live their fullest life. So I'm absolutely with you there. So thank you. I'm not going to call you Alison again. And we're going to work together on this further, because I know there are some other bringing nature together, some of the images that we're looking for. So thank you. I'm going to rush to the Caribbean now, because not only do we do gardens, but we need to do climate change in the Caribbean. And my colleague Helen is going to share what's happening there.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's morning here, so good afternoon as well in the UK. You'll have to imagine, because my camera isn't working, I'm sat in front of the beach with the Caribbean Sea behind me and palm trees. So please view that scene in your mind while I share my reflections on art, sustainability and nursing in the Caribbean, in the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands are a British overseas territory in the southwest of the Caribbean. More than 95% of the population live on the main island, Grand Cayman, which is where I work. We have a population of 80,000, made up of about a third Caymanians, about a third permanent resident status, and 1/3 recent migrants. The ethnic background of the population is very diverse, and in that regard, the Cayman Islands differ from many other Caribbean islands. At the time of emancipation in May 1835, the population was around 50% black and 50% white, whereas in many other Caribbean islands, it was more like 90% black. The islands are very proud that emancipation here, they did not transition to a so-called apprenticeship scheme. All slaves were freed immediately. And the diversity of the population is also reflected in our hospital staffing, with Caymanians, Jamaicans, people from elsewhere in the Caribbean, as well as people from every continent. The ground here is rocky and porous, and water drains very slowly into it. Grand Cayman is low-lying. We have no rivers. The highest point is only 20 metres above sea level. Global warming and rising sea levels are a major concern here, including to health. There's no malaria at the moment, but we have seen some dengue in the past couple of years. The lack of suitable land for agriculture means there's little history of plantations. There is, however, a tradition of seafaring, including piracy. Each year we celebrate this heritage with Pirates Week, which is actually this week, with music and drama, and we also have carnivals and a pride parade. Life in the Cayman Islands is certainly entertaining, spiritual and colourful. I was honoured to present at the first ever Cayman Islands Nursing Research Conference earlier this year. In addition to the usual welcoming address, we had a blessing from one of the local pastors, and after the blessing we had a dance troupe and singing, including our national song, which I'll share a few lines of. O land of soft fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair, with the Creator's glory reflected everywhere. O sea of palest emerald, merging to the darkest blue, whene'er my thoughts fly Godward, I always think of you. Art is found throughout our hospital. As you arrive, you're greeted by a large steel sculpture of a caduceus, a rod with 2 snakes wrapped around it, that is familiar to us all as a symbol of healthcare. Our sculpture is capped by a triangular emblem. In the equilateral triangle are 3 arrows pointing to the corners. The triangle represents the Holy Trinity, God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and reflects the Christian heritage of the islands. The radiology waiting area has a large mural of pinkish memorial ribbons fixed on the branches of trees. This represents our support for cancer awareness. In October, for example, hand in hand with one of the health insurers, we did dozens of mammograms at no charge to patients. All these women were followed up by our oncoplastic breast surgeon. This is a normal feature of our work. Although we operate in a private healthcare system in the Cayman Islands, it's not unusual for people to exhaust their healthcare benefits, health insurance benefits, and we continually look for affordable or pro bono solutions to help them. Our National Gallery is a modern building in what we call the 7 Mile Corridor. It's a strip of land that lies adjacent to 7 Mile Beach, which is one of the most beautiful in the Caribbean and a huge draw for tourists. Climate change is having a major impact on it. Adverse weather events that wash away the white sand are becoming more commonplace. Indeed, there's one developing at the moment. And they wash away the white sand. Yeah. This year we had more tropical storms and hurricanes forecast than any past season. As well as storms, our islands were hit full on by an unprecedented 3 hurricanes. Beryl was the earliest Category 5 hurricane in recorded history. Helene followed, and most recently Raphael. The impact of climate change doesn't just erode the sand and threaten the leisure economy, it also washes away the breeding grounds for turtles. The rising water temperatures threaten the reef, which also faced damage from the lionfish and invasive species. Our national animal is the blue iguana, which has also been threatened by the invasive green iguana from Central America. We've even had an iguana in the have a CT scan at the hospital, more pro bono work. Currently, the National Gallery has an exhibition called Tangled World. Tangled World explores the tension at play within the Cayman Islands, ancient mangrove habitat, and its profound environmental and cultural significance. As the ecological heart of our island, mangroves protect, sustain, and facilitate the flourishing of life and human habitation in Cayman. These unique saltwater forests filter seawater and cool air. They serve as a sanctuary for countless species, including juvenile reef fish, land crabs, and migratory and endemic birds. Mangrove forests shield us from the destructive effects of hurricanes by capturing vast amounts of carbon, so they play a vital role in the battle against global climate change. In just over 50 years, half of the world's mangrove forests have been lost due to coastal development, agriculture, commercial fish farming, and pollution. Despite this accelerated destruction, Grand Cayman is home to one of the largest mangrove forests in the Caribbean basin. Tangled World expresses a multifaceted vision of Caymanian society attuned to the realities of our time. Economic prosperity, rapid immigration and population growth, environmental distress, and the erosion of traditional culture. Cultural tradition is important in our nursing work. We have just relaunched the Cayman Islands Nursing and Midwifery Association. I was humbled to be elected president of the new association and began my term only a few weeks ago, actually. In September, our nurses and midwives helped us design and select a new association logo. The new logo pays homage to the 3 Cayman Islands with 3 distinct parts. The outer border of the logo represents the caring hands and arms of a nurse, always holding our patients close to us as we attempt to provide the highest standard of care. Secondly, inside the logo, we have a book representing the knowledge that nurses have as we strive to always provide nursing care based on the latest evidence. And finally, within the logo, we also have the caduceus symbol representing the healthcare community. Nursing is an integral part of the care and treatment of a patient, and we are proud to uphold the highest standards for the patients within our care. I'd like to conclude with my thoughts by reciting another verse, and this is the final verse from our national song that captures how I feel about nursing and sustainability in my new home. When tired of all excitement and glamorous worldly care, how sweet thy shores to reach and find a welcome there. And when comes on the season of peace, goodwill to man, 'tis then I love thee best of all, beloved Isle Cayman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen.
You may just have heard thunder breaking out in the background towards the end there, because we have yet another tropical storm and possible hurricane on the way.
You speak there of the word erosion, and I've invited you in because we need to remind people that islands such as the one you're living on and cultures will not be there unless we do something about climate change. Low lying, not the creatures, it's the whole culture in the land. So thank you. This is a swift one, so I'm going to swiftly come back to the UK, to Angela Hayes, who I've worked with on sustainability, to give us an understanding of what you're up to, Angela, and how nurses can do something practically in the UK now so that we can save not only patients and the populations, but the islands and the livelihoods that Helen was speaking about. Angela, there you are.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. So Angela, you've joined an organisation with sustainability in it, and you're a nurse fellow. Tell the world of nurses what on earth this is about.
So I've only been there a couple of months. Before that, I was a proper nurse, and now I'm called a nurse fellow and project leader at the charity called the Centre for Sustainable Healthcare. And my role at the moment mainly centres around a quality improvement project that we're launching called the Green Nursing Challenge, based along the similar kind of lines as the Green Team competition. This is specific for nurses though. It's a quality improvement project that literally can save nurses thousands and thousands of pounds, given the kind of the right project. And what it does, the project is asks nurses to rethink how we deliver our care so it's more streamlined, more efficient, to save money, potentially save our time, patient improvements, but also save the planet. It's a national project, it's fully funded. We're particularly looking to hear from our community nurses, and the project is mentored and supported by colleagues from the Centre for Sustainable Healthcare. We're doing the project in collaboration at the moment with different organisations, but the Queen's Nursing Institute is somebody that is an organisation that have agreed to partner up with us. We're looking for other partners to join us. So a shameless plug there that we're launching this in January. So it's kind of a way that we can, as nurses, think about different ways of doing things that save the patient, save the person, save the planet.
Yeah, marvellous. And talking about different ways of doing things, you know I'm going to ask you about Angela Hayes on the telly, but not you, that other person. Nurses get everywhere, and we have to show that we can do more than bedside board to side. So share with the world about the TV programme.
Okay, so the other shenanigans that I've been up to, I'm kind of always seeing everything through these kind of sustainability goggles. I don't shut up about it, as my friends and family will kind of certainly agree with. So it's kind of filtering down through them as well. And my sister is, I have two sisters. I do music with both of them, but one sister is an actress, and she writes stuff as well in the acting business. So she was writing, one of the writers on a series called Doctors, a soap opera called Doctors, and she's always looking for new ideas. It's quite tricky to get an idea that will fit into a 30-minute programme, but she contacted me one day a few months ago saying that she'd had this idea and it was based on me. And she said, so I've written this story about, I'm inserting the word annoying because I know I can be, an annoying climate change activist called Angela Hayes. And she's somebody that knocks on windows and asks car drivers to turn off their idling engines. And that's kind of the background to this character. So she arrives at the doctor's surgery, not this time to be lecturing them about the climate and what they can do, but she's got her own problems, and she's actually pregnant when this lady is a birth striker, which I'd never even heard of. So my sister had gone kind of beyond me, and so it's a story about Angela arriving at the GP practice, and even though she realizes that she thinks that she's pregnant despite her views, and it's how the story. I won't tell you the outcome, but that's kind of that was the story there.
Thank you. And this is one of the stories that is going to be featuring in the Nurses and Allies Harnessing the Arts to Deliver the Sustainable Development Goals, which is a book that brings all of these kind of stories and actions together. So that's how I linked in with Angela, plus the webinars that we've done on being green. So thank you. What I hope people have seen is already how the arts in nursing aren't just about pictures of nursing or engaging with art therapy for health reasons. They're about how we design a building, how we communicate messages, such as the poetry that Helen has just used, how we get our messages into art places, be they galleries or be television programs. This is not about just pictures of nurses. This is about us showing our presence all over the place and changing the messaging. And with that in mind, I move over to the RCN team, because this is exactly what the RCN team are doing in terms of climate right now. I feel like I should be on BBC News when I say right now. So in the room, I have, because we are in the RCN and one on screen, we have them, and we have the final 20 minutes over to the college to share not only what you are doing, but what we hope nurses will be doing in terms of climate work. Rose first.
Thank you. So, hello everyone, it's lovely to be with you. Hello Lisa, I can see you on screen. My name is Rose Gallagher and I'm the professional lead for sustainability here at the Royal College of Nursing. So what that means essentially is that I am a registered nurse and I am looking at sustainability through the lens of nursing practice, but also health policy, because policy influences nursing practice and the delivery of healthcare. We have been doing work on sustainability, albeit by another name, for a number of years, from the early days of our work looking at data on waste that healthcare organisations produce, which was hugely influential and exposed a complete lack of coherence in data and comparison, to the point that the national data collection mechanism, the ERIC data, was amended, taking into account our findings here in England. So now every hospital can look at how much of each type of waste it produces and compare with its neighbours and similar size organisations to effect positive changes. So we did that out of concerns around waste and nurses' concerns around what was going in bags. And then from that flowed our work with the national supply chain, our procurement work, small changes, big differences. And through working collaboratively as a Royal College and a trade union, we brought in the health and safety and well-being aspects related to nursing practice around skin health and focused on gloves. And although it was never intended in any way, our glove awareness work is the thing that we are known most for. But now, very quickly, to come to today, and the team will talk about the exhibition launch in a moment, we are spending time listening to members, and Lisa accompanied us, and I'll hand over to Lisa now. We are listening to our members to understand what their priorities are for sustainability in nursing practice, so we can look at how these align with what we think the priorities are, because managing expectations in action on climate change is huge. And from these priority areas, we plan to create meaningful actions in the short, medium and long term. But when Lisa joined us in Birmingham a few weeks ago, she really brought the art of nursing to life and captured our discussions in art form. So I would like to hand over to Lisa for her perspective as a non-nurse, which was absolutely critical and fascinating.
Thank you. Lisa, this is when we bring the nurse and nurse artist allies together.
Yes.
Can you put yourself on
Beautiful.
speaker? We'll put you up. There we go.
Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, well, it's an honor. It's such a, I love working this way with you at the RCN. So I'm a filmmaker, artist and performer, and I was brought in by Sarah, introduced to the RCN from Sarah at the library to actually make a live drawing show in March at the very end, which I'll talk about first. But then when I was working with Rose in Birmingham, we together we discussed what to do on the day of the event you were doing,
Workshop.
Rose, and workshop. That's the word. I was going through lots of different words, and we decided that I would do what I want to do is to do drawing workshops with nurses and people working in nursing in order to get ideas for my live drawing show in March. But then I did a drawing workshop at the workshop that you were doing at the event, just to get the people attending relaxed, together, kind of connection together. Drawings, this wonderful thing that I believe anyone can do. So I do quite drawing games based on observation, drawing each other, drawing the room, drawing objects out of your bag, very simple games, and really bring the artist out in everyone. I do believe that everyone can draw. And I also think it's a great thing for mental health alongside this wonderful words about nature. So we did this workshop, and then during the actual event, I do have a few drawings here, but I know I drew quite a lot of the nurses, and I absolutely adored it. So I did capture a lot of the event. I've got about 60, and I'm showing them later on. I'll be coming in person and posting them up for those at the Royal College of Nursing. It's another way of, I think, capturing an event, not just through photography. I love photography too as a filmmaker, but I think drawing does have a very hands-on, emotional and body sense. So it was delightful to draw the event and really listen. And this will provide something for you. It's there for the nurses and the Royal College of Nurses to have. I'm actually timing myself. So I just want to talk about the live drawing show. Where have I got? That's got a bit more to go. I'll just talk a bit about the live drawing show that I'm doing in March, which I hope you all come to. So this will be, it's about an hour-long show. I've been doing these live drawing shows for about 15 years, and it kind of combines my life as a filmmaker, a performer, and an artist. I sit at a desk, and my drawing is captured by camera, which is then fed to the screen next to me. So I'm sitting at the desk, the screen shows my drawing in real time, and I talk via a microphone, play music as I conjure up a story, meets fiction, meets documentary, of all the information I've gathered from the event in Birmingham and the drawings that I will get from the nurses, the nurses workshops I'm doing. Tonight, in fact, I'll be doing them. So indeed, if any of you want to be part of the show, please come to the drawing workshop I'll be doing at the RCN. And also I'm doing one online. I'll do a bit of research at the library, I think, and I'll combine this all into a show about nurses' reactions, the work you're doing about climate change, the climate emergency. So it's such a wonderful project to be involved in. I absolutely love it. It's such a gift. I'm so pleased to be to be allied with you. It's great. I've done that. It's 4 minutes. I think I'll stall there because I think I'm babbling along.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And we'll come to the rest of the team now so that the participants can have more of an understanding of what's going on this evening and the ongoing aspect. I just want to bring some key words because as we go, the art of nursing is about providing effective care, but the art of nursing is ensuring that what we do is engaging, is educating, is environmentally sound, both in how we build the internal environment where health is provided and the planet, but it's about the emancipation of nurses and nursing. And this is what you're bringing, that emancipation where we can fully be what we know works well for our own health, for our patients' health and the planet health. So you're our emancipatory gatekeeper. Thank you. Over to the team. So could you tell us what's going on this in the building this evening? And how other nurses could be connected to that.
Yeah, shall I start, and then Lucy and Antonio, if there's anything you want to chip in on, feel free. So we're launching tonight. I've just posted it in the chat. Our new exhibition, New Me in the World, Nursing in a Climate Crisis, and we've used a range of approaches from art and history to really engage people with the topic. So in addition to Lisa's arts that she's mentioned that we'll be using tonight at the launch to kind of really get people thinking, we've also got another art installation by an artist called Louise Ward Morris, A Glove Turned Inside Out, and that gets people thinking both about the glove awareness that Rose has spoken about, but also the artwork is installed on a number of old mobile phones. So also thinking about the way that technology and e-waste contributes to the climate crisis, and increasingly so within health services. So we use these artworks really to draw visitors in, to engage their emotions as well in the topic, but also to get them thinking about new and changing issues, but also about what they can actually do as well. So the funding that we received to bring Lisa on board also paid for us to install a couple of recycling points for hard to recycle health items in the exhibition, including gloves and pill blisters. So people can come along to our exhibition and learn more, and then they can actually actively do something while they're here.
Thank you. Thank you. And how can people connect to that online?
Yes. So there's an online event as well. So I can share the link to that in the chat, so you can join the talks from 6 p.m. online, and an online version of the exhibition too.
Right. So from 6 p.m. this evening, you too can be part of this art movement and art of nursing movement. Is there anything you want to add?
No, just to say the exhibition's on at HQ down here in London for 6 months. So do pop in if you can't make the launch. It's open whenever the library is open. So Monday to Friday until 7 p.m. and then most Saturdays, but check our website for that. And then it travels up to Edinburgh to our RCN Scotland HQ next year. So that if you live that way, do check that out as well. And there's also a partnership with Nottingham Trent Design School, who worked on a project called PPE Refashioned, and they essentially worked with sustainable PPE manufacturers and textile manufacturers to look again at PPE gowns and isolation gowns. And so they've created a gown which works on a sort of circular economy model. So after the 75 uses permitted in healthcare settings, they've looked at ways to upcycle the gown, and they also worked with fashion designers to create some really innovative fashion pieces that you can see in the space, and yeah, which was fantastic. But it was also a project that came up with a gown that can be used in the industry. They worked with a variety of different manufacturers, and the idea is that the gown is adjustable, so it kind of fits different sort of nursing staff, and they consulted with healthcare workers on that gown.
So here you can see we started with the art of nursing the planet. And I think we've moved on from art of nursing to save the planet to the art of nursing to sustain the planet, both in terms of what we do with what we wear, what we use. And the key with art and the art of nursing is it's not what we do or what we see, it's what we enable others to do and see. And that's what nursing is as well. So the art of nursing, and linked to climate crisis, is within our gift. We can actually do something. The simple actions of what we do with our own products, with what we wear, which is coming from You Mean the World programme today, working with the charities and the organisations that have been mentioned in terms of changing the environment or getting out into the environment. Thank you. Power of representation, to have a mixed audiences. We do not have a mixed audience here. I recognise that, and our links with the global Caribbean is what the effort to try and recognise that we are also all female, and as is 90% of the nursing profession. So thank you to all. It's 59 minutes, and please join us for our next Art of Nursing webinar in January, which will be focused on using the arts for exploration of lived experience and how we're working with service users. And the one in March will be on gender equality. And if you want to work with us, get in touch, because actually this needs to be co-produced all of the time. So with that in mind, and 30 seconds to go, thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our speakers for giving your time for free. No one gets paid for this. We are actually doing it because we're on a mission to save nursing, represent the art of nursing, and save the planet as well. So thank you and good afternoon.